Welcome to the Renovation Roadmap Podcast, your ultimate guide to navigating the world of renovations and home improvements. I'm your host, Jen Orr, and I am thrilled to be your companion on your renovation journey. Renovations are like embarking on a thrilling adventure, but let's face it, they can also feel like a roller coaster of challenges. We're here to equip you with the essential tools and knowledge you need to survive your next remodel. I'm not just your host, I'm also the owner and principal designer of Studio Red Interior Design and Remodel. With years of experience as both a general contractor and designer, I've accumulated some insights and strategies for ensuring your project stays on track and on budget. Think of this podcast as your go-to resource for valuable tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories that will empower you as you embark on your renovation. Together, we'll navigate the ups and downs of renovation and emerge with homes that truly reflect our dreams and aspirations. So let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back. We are so glad that you are listening in today. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what it looks like to hire a general contractor to manage your project from start to finish. I talked a little bit last week about different contractors, and today I have a general contractor with me, Greg. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your company?
I'd love to. Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California and moved up to the beautiful Pacific Northwest about 11 years ago in search of a better life for myself and my two daughters. Passionate about soccer. I actually play, I coach, and I even have season tickets to our local women's professional team, the Portland Thorns. I'm currently a student pilot working toward, and
Nice.
I started Cascadia Construction and Remodeling about 7 years ago because I felt like every time I hired a contractor, there was just something lacking in the experience. And so my 2 decades of corporate life lent itself well into starting a business and taking out what I felt like was the fluff in a business and keeping in all of the great aspects of all of the companies that I'd worked for over the last 27 years. So that's a little bit about me and Cascadia Construction.
Awesome. Love it. I feel like I just learned something new about you. I didn't know you were all into soccer. My son started playing soccer for the first time this year. So it's all new to him, but he's absolutely loving it. So that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. Alrighty, so, we know general contractors come in all different shapes and sizes, and they have different business of people that are behind the scenes in the field. You're not just a one-man show where you are doing the bids and you're also the one doing the work. And so can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like in a renovation and how that translates to have multiple team players a part of the project?
Absolutely. Let me see if I can dissect it a little bit, only in that from a chronological standpoint, I would say for the first 3 years of business, I was pretty much an owner operator. I definitely had subcontractors who I would hire and come in and do a lot of the work. But for the most part, it was just a one-man show, and it gave me an opportunity to find out what clients were looking for when they hired a contractor because I had my fingers on the pulse directly. And some of the things that I learned were what a contractor needs to bring to the table and what are most important for a company to be successful in that space. So some of those takeaways for me, the big ones were hiring a team that share the same values that I want to exhibit to the client. Communication is probably the biggest one. I'll probably beat that dead horse a lot today throughout the conversation, but there's nothing better than communication, whether it's coming from the client side or from the contractor side. So definitely don't be bashful when you do hire a contractor to ask the questions and advocate for the things that are important to you, because that gives us an opportunity to roll up our sleeves and understand what color palettes you like and what type of surface materials are important to you. What's your overall vision? So when you hire Cascadia Construction, what we try to do is really understand what is your vision and how can we help you bring that to life. So it starts with conversation and communication. And then from there, it's about scoping out the work. So that's really important to capture all of the details. When you're having a conversation with a client, nothing's too small to write down. So it's really important to take notes and then translate that into a scope of work that reflects what they're looking for and what their vision is. And then how do you make that come to life? That's the magic. That's the production side of it. So having a team that can manifest what's on paper into reality is an art form in and of itself. And so when you hire a contractor, what you want is for them to be able to walk that journey with you, let you be kind of the lead, right? We're just leading you along the way and making your vision come to life. And if you hire a good contractor, they should be able to do that.
Awesome. I love that. So when somebody is working with you guys, what are the different team players that are part of a project? If we were to hire you, who would I expect to be having conversations with, or who will be involved in my project as a homeowner?
That is an excellent question. So there's a few different ways where, broadly speaking, clients will experience working with a contractor. And what I mean by that is, generally speaking, you'll have somebody who is kind of a salesperson. They'll come in and meet in the initial walkthrough. They'll listen to what you're looking for and then put a proposal together. And then once that proposal gets to the point where the client feels comfortable and wants to hire you, at that point, most contractors would have a project manager come in and then manage the project in the production cycle from start, breaking ground, to finish in the final walkthrough. That was an iteration that we were working with for a while and decided to actually shift to a different model where we actually have our project manager working with the client from day one. And the benefit for that is you really only have one person that you're working with. And during that baton handoff, there won't be anything that slips through the cracks because they're going to be accountable for the conversations that they've had. They're going to be able to record the notes and have ongoing conversations. If, let's say, during the scoping phase, you change your mind and you want a different color palette or a different tile selection, or maybe you want to go from a single shower head to a dual shower head. So those are the types of things that can easily get lost in translation in the initial iteration with the salesperson and project manager handoff, to now where you have one active, engaged person who is dedicated to your project, understands how you like to communicate, and can work with you from day one until the project is finished. And so the way that we're structured is we have 3 project managers, and they get dedicated to your project. They vary in skill. So in terms of, or I should say experience rather than skill, some have more experience with framing and new structures and new builds versus some that have more experience with kitchens and bathrooms. So depending on what type of project is who we would assign to that project. And then as far as the structure goes, we also have an office manager, and she actually engages with the clients on a regular basis as well. So between the office manager and the project manager, those are your pretty much 2 main point of contacts throughout the duration of working with Cascadia. And then there's, back end staff, and I don't know how much you'd want me to go into all that, but I'm happy to pull the curtain back and share it. You lead the way.
No, I think it's great because I think that people don't often recognize that or know that within a construction company, there are so many different elements behind the scenes, so many people working behind the scenes on their project that make the project run. But I think it's brilliant what you have transitioned to with the project manager being that first person, point of contact, because typically when we're bringing someone into our home to do a project or to look at something, we're going to hire that company most likely based off of that interaction that we're having with that very first point of contact. And I think that sometimes homeowners feel like, they have this great interaction with the initial person, and when they're hiring, to some extent, they're hiring because of that person, right? We're not just hiring because of what the company is or what the company has to offer, but we're hiring the person that we want to work with. And so I think oftentimes homeowners can tend to feel like they're being passed off. I'm going to start this process with you, and then I'm going to pass you off to somebody else. And then they never see that person again. And it's like, okay, but I wanted to work with you. I had a conversation with you. I enjoyed our interaction. And now you're not even a part of my project anymore. So having the project manager come in first and be that first point of contact, the relationship that you're starting to build to know, like, and trust that person is the actual person that's going to be in and out of your home, managing the project, and the one that you're actually communicating with. I think that is genius. So kudos. Good job.
Thank you. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
The client's probably getting a few bids from other contractors, and a big portion of why they choose somebody is the connection they made. So why not allow them to engage with them from beginning to end? And that way you minimize a lot of potential lost in translation details. So
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. And you talked about, going in and doing a scope of work. So when a client comes to you and asks you for a bid for a project, an estimate, and you go in and kind of hash through that scope of work with the homeowner, what do you do when you start asking the homeowner what they want? How do you navigate that? How do you even give them an estimate or a proposal if the homeowner just really, they haven't really thought through, or they don't know all the decisions that need to be made, and they don't know what they want? What do you do then?
I love that question, and it can get really deep. So we can go as far down that rabbit hole as we'd like to. As far as on our end, we try to ask questions to determine how much they already know about the remodel that they want to do and construction in general. And that gives us a pretty good indication of how much we need to lead and how much we just need to guide them along the way. So if we're leading, we're going to give them more information about specific products. So for instance, let's just take a bathroom remodel, and we're doing a shower for them. Well, there's a shower valve, and then you've got your fixtures, right? So we will get more granular with them if they don't have as much background or knowledge about it, so that we can educate them and point them in a direction that we feel meets their needs. So we will ask more questions, give more information, versus a client who we actually just had a conversation internally earlier this morning about a client who had flushed out their entire project onto a document that they provided us and just said, hey, can you bid this project? We've already put our vision into paper. They clearly get it. They know all of the details, and they're probably not familiar with every aspect, but it showed us that they really took the time to think through the project. They're familiar. Maybe they're a little bit more of a driver. They like to kind of manifest what it is that they want versus somebody who may not know that. And so when we ask those questions and start painting a picture of what type of client and what type of hand-holding they need, that's when we steer our information into the proper direction.
Okay. So a lot of these decisions that clients, have to make, right? Like the shower valve, are they making those decisions prior to you giving them an estimate or a bid, or how do you navigate what the selections are going to be if they haven't made the selections yet?
So if they have made a selection, we'll absolutely incorporate that in our scope. If they haven't made a selection, or they have a general idea of where they want to be at a level of finish, so
Mm-hmm.
you've got a variety of different costs of products, right? So depending on, and this will be a question that we ask as we're scoping out and doing the initial walkthrough, it's what level of finish would you like? And then depending on that, we can provide a budget allocated towards the specific material that they're going to need to select. So that way we know, I'm just going to make this up, but let's say we're doing middle to high end finishes, the shower valve and the shower fixture, instead of $300, maybe we give them $500 or $800, and we put that as a budgeted line item so that as we go through the project and we've signed a contract and we've received our deposit, then the project manager and our office manager would have a meeting to flush out the details of any material selection that needs to happen. We'll provide them with a list of what they'll need to select. And then if they want to go off and pick it out themselves, or they would like a level of help or engagement from our team, we'll then guide them again along the way. Otherwise, we tell them, here's our suppliers, feel free to go check them out, put your hands on the actual materials. There's some local vendors and suppliers that have that opportunity. And so you'll have that $800 budget in your actual scope of work. And when you go in there, that's what you have to work with. And if it goes over, then it would be a change order adjusted based off the difference.
Yes, love that. Okay, so I love that you ask them what level of finish they want, because I feel like a lot of contractors just stick in that allowance, and that allowance is at the low end, right?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to compete with the other bids that are going on. And so, well, if I give a lower allowance for the plumbing fixtures, then I'll come in lower, I'll get the job, knowing most likely they're going to pick something that's more expensive than that allowance. And then the change order comes in, right? So I love that you give the opportunity for the homeowner to choose what range they want to be in. And then they know, okay, I have this budget that I've selected, right? I want a mid-range finish. And so, and then knowing that they have to stay in that budget. Okay, so when the homeowner goes to these vendors that you have, knowing that they're in this mid-range budget, how do they know what they're selecting is within that budget, or do they?
So depending on the supplier, they will have pricing available. There's a couple of, like, our tile supplier, one of them has just retail pricing, and then as a contractor you get a discount, so we pass along that discount to our clients, and it just depends on what that tile selection or flooring selection might be, because the discount varies. So at that point, what we would tend to do is we'd let them pick something out, and then if it doesn't fit within the budget, then we let them know, and we can work with our tile supplier to provide alternative solutions that align with the color or shape or the size of tile selection, flooring selection.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. So I want to get into a little bit, because you mentioned, passing on discount to the homeowner. So let's get into this taboo topic about markups, project management fees. I think that I hear often from people that they feel like contractors are marking up products and adding in extra fees, and that these are just icing on the cake, and that they're just making more money or taking advantage of them. And I'm hoping we can just speak a little bit to these fees. What are they actually covering, and why do we mark up products, and what does that look like? And, is this just extra cash in your pocket, Greg, that you're just, stuffing away as more profit? Or what are clients paying for when this is included in their estimate?
That's a great question. We're obviously not in the business because we're a nonprofit. We're trying to make money, but at the same time, we want to provide a true 100% value to our client. So the way to do that is by structuring your company so that you can provide this service that the customer wants, and then ultimately you hope to scale up a business and continue to grow and provide that level of service. So I guess I'll start at the core values for Cascadia Construction, which is honesty, integrity, communication, and doing the right thing.
Mm.
And then ultimately creating a space for clients to feel like they matter and that we're able to take their vision and turn it into reality for them. So in order to do that, we need a certain level of support structure around us. And so going back to the project manager and our office manager, those are the two that you have visibility to every day throughout your project and even leading up to the scoping and the initial walkthrough. But outside of that, we also have a lot of back-end staff. We've got our field staff, and then, we have a bookkeeper and there's an office. So we need to obviously pay for the time that everybody puts in to make these projects come to life. So there's no hidden fees that we associate with what we do. The way that we take a project is we know we're going to have a certain amount of cost associated with it, and then we have a profit margin that accounts for everyone's time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little bit left over to continue to scale the business up so that we can provide better service. So, for instance, over the next couple of weeks, we're looking into a scheduling software that allows our clients who are interested in scheduling time with us in the beginning to be able to just book us immediately rather than having to wait until somebody gets back to them and then they schedule time based off their calendar. So in order for us to provide better service, obviously we need to make a little bit of profit. But at the end of the day, the most important thing for us, and we wouldn't be in business very long if this wasn't the case, but a happy client.
Yes.
So that's the general picture in terms of how we've structured ourselves in terms of the fees and the way that we charge. Really just peeling back the curtain is we have certain costs that are associated with our project between labor, materials, subcontractor. Obviously, there's taxes and insurance that go into it. So once we cover that, there's a small portion left over for the company, and then we continue to build the company and grow and become a better provider for our clients.
I love that. I love that because I think that people often don't recognize that, when you're paying a general contractor who has a built out team and built out systems to come in, manage your project from the very beginning all the way through the end, and the experience that you have with them from start to finish, everything from responding to emails, communication, who's on site, how often are they on site, right? All of those small little details that you don't realize are associated with a project, when those are built out and they have good, clean systems that all require money, right? It requires money for the project manager to be on site, then those all contribute to a smoother run project and a better client experience in the long run. And so I love that and the fact that you're contributing that into making things even better and making an even better client experience. So that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about design a little bit.
I got one more thing to add to that, if you wouldn't mind. It's a funny story. So a peer who's a really good friend of mine, he had a business for about 5 years, and we had worked together. I had subcontracted to him. He had subcontracted to me. Great working relationship, very open with each other, and we would share things that we would learn that we thought the other would benefit from. And recently I had a conversation with him. He's no longer in business. And he said something to me which completely aligns with what we're talking about right now, and I thought it would be worth sharing. And that is the way that he was talking to me, have built your business you price things so that you can stay in business, so that your clients can come back to you when they've finished their bathroom remodel. Now they want to get their kitchen done, or they've got their bathroom done and something needs warranty work. They know that they can come back to you and that you're going to be in business because you charge the right amount in order for you to continue to stay in business and to provide an above board operation that can take care of its clients, versus the competitor who tries to win every project, undercuts other contractors who are trying to charge enough to keep the lights open and continue to grow and provide a quality service. They are doing themselves and the client a disservice because they're not going to be around for very long. And now the client who wanted to save a few dollars, who hired them, is no longer going to be able to contact them when it comes to a warranty, or maybe they want to get their kitchen done and that contractor is not around anymore. So it just struck a chord with me. We're not trying to become rich, or we don't charge a crazy premium. We are more expensive than average, and that is because we pride ourselves on being able to provide a really high level of customer service, and we want to be around for our clients in the future. So
Yeah, and it's not that you're trying to take advantage of people, you're trying to serve them at a higher level, and there's a difference there.
absolutely.
And I love what you're saying about this friend of yours, because I feel like a lot of times general contractors, they get into the business of contracting because they have a skill set that they know how to do and they do it well. But they don't always understand the business side of it, right? And that's what you're tapping into, is that it takes a lot to run a business. And so when they're thinking about their hourly rate, or they're thinking about what to charge for a project, they're not always considering all the back end things that it takes to run a company. And that's where they end up getting stuck and going out of business, not being able to keep their doors open because they just don't understand, all the things that it takes to run a business and to price yourself in a way that's making sure that you are covering all the things that you actually are paying for when you are in business. So, wow,
Absolutely.
that's amazing. And I'm sure that your background, helped and allowed you to really set yourself up to succeed, right? You weren't just a contractor that was going to decide to start his own business, So,
Truly.
okay, so design. Let's talk about design a little bit. Obviously, I'm a designer, so I love to talk about design. And I always argue, that you have to have design. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know, like, what the scope of work even is, right? So no matter what, the design has to be developed, and it has to come from someone. So whether that be a designer, or like you said, a homeowner, that you're giving them a checklist of things, go select these things, that is design, right? You can't install a tile shower without knowing what tile to use. And that's the design component of it. So you mentioned a little bit that you do assist homeowners to a certain level in helping kind of make these decisions and stuff. What are the different ways, and that you give a list? I love that you give a list to homeowners. Oh my goodness, the amount of stories I've heard of people working with contractors that tell them last minute, like, I need you to go pick out the tile. And they're getting ready to tile, and it's this quick decision that they have to make. Can you speak to your design process? How does that work? How do you come alongside homeowners and helping them with those selections? When do they need to have those selections made by? What does your design process look like?
I will just say that our favorite projects to work on, and the best ones that end up wowing everyone, are when we have a designer involved with the project. from the very get-go.
Yes. Okay. And I know you're not just saying that to make me feel better.
Absolutely not. That is 100% accurate as far as the ease of working through a project when we have a partner such as you working through the project with the client. It becomes so much easier for the client, for us, and the end product is so much higher quality and cohesive at the end of the day. So that is
Why do you
very
think
easy.
that is? What do you think it is about clients who work with designers that makes your job easier?
So if you were to break down a project, and I think a kitchen or bathroom's a great example. There's a lot of elements of design that come into play. And while Cascadia has executed a lot of those, we are limited on several fronts. One, just sheer knowledge as a student of the industry. A designer versus a construction company, a designer is going to win almost every time because that's what you do day in and day out. It would be like you general contracting your own bathroom or kitchen remodel. Could you do it? Absolutely. And I mean, I know you, so I know you do a really good job. But generally speaking, if you were to do it versus hiring a contractor to do it, you would do a good job, but the general contractor, that's what they do. So when you pair what you specialize in with each other, it just exponentially provides increased value. At the end of the day, everything comes together a lot.
Right. So experts doing what they do best in their field. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, but let's say a homeowner, it's not in the budget. They cannot hire a designer and they've hired you to remodel their kitchen. How do you navigate those selections with them, and how do they make those decisions?
That's a great question, and part of how I would visualize this specifically on the design front. You have clients or customers who would like to general contract or run their own project from start to finish, right? No designer involvement, no general contractor. They just think of what they want to do. Maybe they do it themselves or they hire some contractors to come in and do elements of it, all the way to you hire a general contractor, you have a designer involved, and you execute. And those are kind of the bookends. And then there's variances along that line where maybe, like you said, you hire a general contractor, but not a designer. Or maybe you hire a designer and not a general contractor. So it really depends on several factors, I'll say. The complexity of the project, the timeline of the project, the budget the client has, the vision that they want to execute, the level of finish. All of those play a factor into kind of what's the right decision. And sometimes you have some flexibility and sometimes you don't. What I mean by that is flexibility in that you have the budget, but maybe you don't necessarily want to hire a general contractor. You just want a designer, or vice versa. So I'm kind of backing into answering your question with a lot more information, but as far as those clients who hire us and take a kitchen, for example, there are still design elements that they will have access to. So cabinets is a great example. You get 3D renderings and you get to see what it looks like as a layout, and that is a design element that you would have access to. Our countertop fabricator actually provides a mock-up of what the countertops will look like, so you do get some visual representation. There are some tile suppliers that do have in-house tile designers that they can help with selections. But again, it's not cohesive. So you've got your paint colors and you've got finishes, and there's a lot of things that go into, should I do frameless glass or should I just buy a kit? And that goes to what level of finish that you want. What's your budget? those are the types of design elements and factors that I think play into that decision process. And again, going back to, I have my magic wand. Jen's coming in and helping me with these projects. So,
do you ever ask homeowners what they want and they say, I don't know, Greg, what do you think I should do?
I do. Absolutely. It's fun. I do enjoy providing my thoughts, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be a guide and help them along the decision-making process and the production process than to give them all the answers, because it's their experience. And at the end of it, yes, they have this beautiful bathroom, or this beautiful kitchen, or a new addition, whole home remodel, whatever it might be. There's still that process along the way. And one of my favorite things to do is to stop and smell the roses, right? So that I can enjoy the process and not just the destination. It makes it a lot easier when you've got people like you involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you work with clients who are making these selections on their own and you give them a list and they go to your vendors and they select them, do you have them make those selections before you start the project?
The best way in which we've found to work, and the only way that we will operate at this point, is before breaking ground, have to make sure we not only have all of our product and material selections made, but we've ordered them.
Yes.
There are instances where we're waiting on a tub to be delivered of something like that, but we won't break ground until our materials are on site and we've verified quantity, the condition, meaning, when we ordered tile and it got shipped, it didn't crack or break. Again, going back to the tub, we want it to be delivered without any sort of cracks or scratches, so that when we break ground, we can minimize the amount of downtime that our clients have with their bathroom or kitchen or home, because it's an inconvenience. And construction fatigue is real. And that's one of the many things that we openly communicate with our clients from the initial walk. Most of the time they haven't. So we explain
so
to
tell
them
me, what is that, Greg? What is construction fatigue?
Construction fatigue is not having your kitchen and having to live out of a refrigerator and microwave for 6 weeks because your kitchen is being worked on and built. So how do we help with that? Having those material selections made, all of the materials purchased and on site. And then when we break ground, all we have to do is go out to the garage, go to where we've stored them, take the materials and utilize them. So it quickens the process for the client and makes it a smaller duration of time frame that they're without their kitchen or bathroom or whatever the active site is in.
Yes. I love that so much preparation, right? Design, development, planning in order to get in and get out as quickly as you possibly can. That's gold. And a lot of contractors don't work that way, and they will make selections in the middle of projects, right? So as a homeowner, be asking these questions. Do you order everything before you break ground? These are some more questions that you can be asking when you're looking to hire someone, because this is going to tell you a little bit about how they operate, how quickly they are going to be able to get in and out of their home. And the more preparation that's done ahead of time and all the selections are made, even down to everything being ordered before demo even happens, that is going to set you up to succeed. So I love that. Okay, Greg, what is one thing that you think, if they didn't hear anything else we said today, what's one thing that you think homeowners should know before embarking on a remodel?
One thing is, that's so tough. Can I give a couple?
Sure.
Well, first and foremost, I would always recommend hiring a licensed, bonded, and insured contractor.
Yes.
So whether you're in Oregon or you're in Washington, whatever state you're in, there is a governing body who will have a list of all the licensed contractors that you can access online. So I implore you to hire a licensed contractor, because it shows a little more effort to them caring enough to have that organization built the way it should be. And then if something goes wrong, there's culpability there. So that would be probably one of the biggest things.
Where can they find if somebody's licensed, bonded, and insured? Where do they go?
So technically, you by law have to have your contractor's license on anywhere that you advertise. So if you've got a vehicle that's wrapped, it should be on there. If you've got a business card, it should be on there. If you've got a website, it should be on there. Worst comes to worst, you just ask them, hey, do you have a license? And you ask them for the number, and you can look them up that way.
Perfect.
Additionally, I did mention communication a couple of times. Don't be bashful. Advocate for yourself. Be open with what your wants and desires are and communicate those, because at the end of the day, when I, as the contractor, have the information that you love blues, blue is just your favorite color. Now you've turned my sensors on to looking into how can I incorporate that color scheme in a tasteful manner. And now I can communicate with the designer. And now we've got a partnership where we can make that come to life for you as the client. And there's things that are silly, like there's a subcontractor who maybe smokes cigarettes and they like to leave their cigarette butt on the driveway or on the street, and that frustrates you. You should be in a place with your contractor where you can tell them that so that they can make it right. It doesn't matter how silly it is, because construction fatigue is crazy. And by the end of the project, you might be a little bit more frustrated than when you started. And if you have that really good communication and dialogue with your contractor, they're going to be very receptive to what you need and what you want and be able to facilitate that for you. So
love it. Love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for hopping on and giving us some good information about what, hiring a general contractor looks like and what that entails with the business model that you guys have. Where can people find you if they're like, man, that Greg, I would love to hire him for our remodel? Where can they find you?
So we are online at Cascadia CR, like constructionremodeling.com. We're on Instagram at Cascadia CR, and we're on Facebook at Cascadia Construction and Remodel.
Awesome. Very cool. And where are you guys located?
Our office is in Camas, Washington, and we serve both Oregon and Washington.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate you coming on the show and giving your words of wisdom to us today. And we will definitely be in touch and continue working together. It was great having you on.
Thank you, Jen. This was so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if I have left you with more questions than answers about your renovation project, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. You can find me at Studio Red Interior Design. If you are looking for step-by-step insight on how to design and manage your own renovation, you can join the Renovation Roadmap course. There is information on that in the show notes. And if you have found this episode helpful, I encourage you to subscribe and share it with others that might find value in it as well. Also, if you haven't already, I would love for you to rate this podcast so more people can benefit from it. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time.